Kia ora, good evening. New Zealand Aluminium Smelters has lost an employment relations decision, which will see it required to pay several $1 million to workers. 64 smelter workers, members of the Engineering, Printing and Manufacturing Union and the smelter disagreed on how many hours constitute a day for the purpose of calculating leave entitlements. The matter went to the Employment Relations Authority, which ruled the workers were entitled to 12 hours leave in lieu of a public holiday under their employment agreements rather than 8 hours. The EPMU says the decision affected staff over a number of years, but they can only claim arrears for the previous 6 years. NZAS says the outcome will result in a significant cost to the business, and while it has the right to appeal, next steps are not yet decided. With more than 20% shortfall in the budget needed to repair, renew and maintain roads in the Southland district, Council is facing what's described as a very, very tight fiscal envelope to spend on roading. Southland district has around 5% of the country's roads, which require around $15.8 million a year to maintain current standards. But Council has only $12.3 million to spend. Sarah Bedford spoke to Chief Executive David Adamson.
In the future, we are going to fit a big wall. Back in the 1960s, they built a lot of roads, and a lot of those roads are getting near the end of their life now. So we've got a bit of a financial crisis hitting us, so we're going to go out to the public and talk to them about what are the options. And obviously there are a number of options: not do any work, and slowly the sealed roads will convert to gravel roads. We've got the opportunity obviously to increase rates, but the increase in rates would be pretty significant. We've got the way we can control some of the heavy traffic potentially by bylaws. But obviously that has an economic impact on the whole province because our roads are very important for the economic livelihood, not only of Southland District, but also, we believe, of all of Southland and, in actual fact, the country.
So is this a new issue?
No, it's a issue that's slowly been coming to a head. We've been flatlined basically about our funding over roading for the last 4 or 5 years, and I don't believe there'll be a big increase coming up. So basically, it's been an issue that's been building.
Why not take funding from another area or increase rates to do this?
Well, increased rates could be, but the increase in rates that we're talking about are a 10% increase in rates year in, year out for the next few years, and I don't think that's affordable at all. In the past, what we used to do is increase rates and we'd get 1 for 1 from the central government. So if we put up $1, we would get $1. So, to do the same amount of work, instead of being a 10% rate increase, it would only be a 5%. But with the government flatlining their side of it, it means that option's not available. Yes, if you looked at reducing services in other areas, well, where would you reduce them? Would you actually say, well, we reduce them in water, which is our second biggest expenditure area, water, wastewater? Well, we can't afford to do that. We've got to supply potable, reliable water. We've got to provide sewage treatment appropriate for them. People rely on their halls. They actually want their libraries. They look at those sorts of areas. So basically, if you went somewhere else, you would be reducing services, and we don't think that that's appropriate.
Have you been to government on the issue?
Oh, certainly. We've made lots of submissions around the funding of roading, and you'll see up and down the country that most rural authorities have. Basically, at the end of the day, the government's decided their priorities: roads of national significance, and those are basically Auckland to Hamilton, around Tauranga, Wellington, Christchurch being the main ones. We believe they could still do their roads of national significance, but if they slowed them down, instead of doing them over a very short period of time, they could extend it, then they could actually still maintain what we believe are roads of very important economic significance to the country.
Department of Conservation staff around the country learned their fate today as the department outlined its final restructure decisions to employees. A scaled-back restructure has been announced, with 72 full-time jobs to go across the country. In Southland, Te Anau will lose 6 staff, Stewart Island is losing 2 and Invercargill will gain 3. Other changes include downsizing the current 11 conservancies to 6 and establishment of 2 teams, one focusing on recreation, historic and biodiversity fieldwork, the other working to develop new conservation initiatives and partnerships with organisations. Last-minute funding announced last week has enabled 41 field-based range roles and 22 local office positions to be added. Electronic spending in the first 4 months of 2013 rose close to 4%, according to figures from EFTPOS provider Paymark. The first third of the year is being described as positive by Paymark, which processes around 75% of electronic transactions. The higher national average growth rate of 3.9% is attributed in part to the Canterbury recovery, with spending in the region up almost 7% on a year ago. Spending in the month of April rose just under 6% nationally compared to 2012, while Southland saw a rise of just under 3%. Stay with us after the break. An arson at an Invercargill school will mean a financial hit for the school. Welcome back. An arson which destroyed a block of classrooms at James Hargest College in Invercargill will hit the school in the pocket. Complete demolition of the fire-gutted prefab will start soon, with the Ministry of Education opting to pull the damaged building down and rebuild on the same footprint. The cost is expected to be around $2.1 million, with the difference between the insurance payout and the cost of the new building borne against the school's entitlement for future projects. Other school refurbishments will be delayed as other entitlements are redirected to maintenance on buildings instead. Principal Andy Wood says the financial effects will continue for several years. A wind farm near Bluff could be reconsidered depending on the outcome of Tiwai Aluminium Smelter's negotiations with Meridian Energy. Energy 3 was granted consent to build a wind farm at Green Hills between Bluff and Invercargill last March. However, the consent was stalled after an appeal to the Environment Court, and in the interim, the Tiwai smelter's viability and future has been called into question. The consent is open for 5 years, and Energy 3 Director Tom Cameron says the company still intends to proceed with financing and procurement, but may reconsider depending on the outcome of negotiations between the smelter and Meridian. Gaining a bigger share of Asian tourism is behind a new collaboration between Christchurch International Airport and Venture Southland. I spoke to Venture Southland CEO Paul Casson about plans to bring more tourists to the south.
Christchurch is the gateway into the South Island. We're seeing numbers are soft and there is a decline. So this strategy is all about trying to create a joint initiative between the RTOs and the South Island to actually increase our tourism. At midnight, it's basically for business.
So what kind of tourism numbers are we getting through that are coming to New Zealand from Asian?
We're seeing, in terms of Chinese tourists, for example, we only get 2% of the Asian tourists directly flying into Invercargill, into the South Island. So it's very small. I can't give you the specifics around the different Japanese, Chinese or Japan, but we are, the numbers are in decline, so we're concerned about that.
Let's talk about Invercargill Airport for a moment. It's not set up to do that yet, but it has been touted that it could become an international airport. Is that something that you would consider in the future?
That is something that the group may be looking at as well. So if we use Christchurch as the gateway, and we could have smaller planes coming to Invercargill in the future.
And again, that would be linking into the Asian market.
That's correct, exactly. So the main focus of this joint initiative between the 13 regional tourism organisations is to really combine our strategy. And we have a limited budget, regions have limited budget, so in a collective manner we're actually lining up together to make this a stronger case to actually attract Asian tourists into the South Island.
So that 2% that we are getting, are they independent tourists or are they?
The majority of the Asians, the 2% are FITs. 75% are groups, but 25% are FITs or free independent travellers. So there's actually quite a large amount of people travelling around the South Island that we don't know, and they are good. They are enjoying the sort of the attractions of the South Island, and also spending quite a large amount of money. So in terms of like when they get here, they like it, and on average they're spending more in the South Island than the North Island.
Queenstown International Airport and Auckland are working together and collaborating to try and tie up that Asian market as well. Are you trying to split the market with this initiative?
Not really. I think what we're trying to do is actually create a wider pool, give the looking at direct flights from Asia into Christchurch. So we've got the Auckland to Queenstown routes, but we also want to ensure that there are direct flights in the future straight to Christchurch, and actually using the South Island connections to actually develop that whole new product.
So can you give us some examples of what sorts of initiatives you have planned for the marketing side of it?
Sure, we're looking at joint marketing initiatives. So collectively we're putting in dollar values from each region to actually develop a strategy for joint marketing overseas and actually advertising, etc. So it's about getting groups here as well and actually doing familiarisations of the South Island, and all that together will actually make it a better return our investment, that's for sure.
Bluff Oysters are proving their pulling power, drawing people from around the world to this year's Bluff Oyster Festival. Around 30,000 Bluff oysters will be available for up to 5,000 festival goers at the 2013 Bluff Oyster and Food Festival. The festival's been organised for the last 6 years by the Bluff community and also includes oyster eating and opening races and a fashion section. Among attendees at this year, tickets have already been sold to people from USA, Japan and Australia. With less than 3 weeks until the event, Bluff Promotions Officer Lindsay Beer says ticket sales are ahead of normal.
Ticket sales are very, very good this year. They're actually outstripping previous years, and obviously those last few weeks we always get the big rush, but no, the ticket sales are well ahead of other years and looking very, very good.
And you are noticing more international attendance?
Yes, we always get a good solid international attendance, but this year in particular we've had lots of bookings from the USA, plenty from Australia, bookings from Japan, and those people appear to be coming specifically for the festival, so that's just fantastic for the festival, fantastic for the entire Southland region's economy.
What do you think's growing that?
I think it's just there's obviously been some good publicity worldwide about the festival. Obviously the internet makes the world a smaller place, and I just think that Bluff Oyster has got a reputation worldwide, and people want to come and experience the festival and try the Bluff Oysters.
Now, given that most years the festival sells out, why not make it bigger?
At the moment, obviously we're limited by the size of our site, and at the moment the festival very, very manageable, so the committee puts lots of work into making it user-friendly and a pleasant experience, and at the moment it works very, very well, and it's probably a good thing to keep people wanting more each year and filling the venue and creating a great atmosphere every single time.
And that's it from news. Coming up in sport, last night's Southern Steel action from Invercargill. From the news team, good night.